Saying a wonderful good morning to our listeners and viewers. Welcome to another edition of To The Point. It's Thursday, the 5th day of March 2026. Good morning to those of you who are viewing and listening this morning, especially those of you via social media platforms, whether it's the Facebook page, YouTube channels. Good morning. And those of you I always seem to have forgotten in terms of viewers and listeners on that particular platform, that's GBN's webpage, gbn.gd. Good morning and welcome. It's Thursday, and you know what we usually do? We host various departments within the RGPF, and today we do have is it the how can I describe this, Special Victims Unit?
Yes.
All right, Special Victims Unit, and we also have Mr. Anderson with us. I did mention him this morning. He seems to be becoming a regular on the program. Had him yesterday, and he's back with us today. Ladies and gentlemen, good morning. Welcome to the program. How's everybody doing this morning?
Good.
Everybody doing good? Everybody's song are kind of low-key this morning. Everybody's songs are a bit low-key. I'm not sure. Is it the Thursday blues? I know it's Monday morning blues. Well, welcome. Our conversation this morning will focus a lot, of course, in observance of International Women's Day. We'll be talking a wee bit about that. And domestic violence. I know we had a healthy conversation yesterday, myself, Ms. Richardson, and of course, Miss
Lisa Lord.
No, Lisa. We were here yesterday, and we had a healthy discussion in relation to that. We're going to get a bit of a different perspective on it this morning in terms of the police, how they see the Special Victims Unit and how they view domestic violence and so forth. So that's our conversation going to flow this morning. I didn't get the officers to introduce themselves in terms of their names, so I'll give the opportunity. I know this officer, she's been here a couple of times before. I always seem to look different every time I see her for some reason or the other. Good morning to you and welcome.
Good morning.
Go right ahead.
Good morning.
Introduce yourself.
Good morning, viewers. My name is Kizian Francis, Woman Detective Corporal 292 Francis. I'm attached to the Special Victims Unit.
All right. And we do have another officer who's going to give us her name.
Good morning to the viewers. I am Lindy Anthon, Woman Detective Corporal, number 940, and I too am attached to the Special Victims Unit of the CID of the Royal Grenada Police Force.
I want to start the conversation like this morning in terms of, we have women and their role evolving in terms of the, should I say, in the gender-based violence unit. Is there a particular unit like that within the RGPF? You're right, the gender-based violence unit. We also have folks and the Special Victims Unit also, all right? But there's not a gender-based violence unit.
No.
So it coincide together with the Special Victims Unit.
Right, so we deal with those matters of a gender-based violence. Great. Well, I guess my question is surrounded in the right way. And so let me take this over again. Now, how does women, I would say, role evolve in terms of the gender-based violence unit and the Special Victims Unit, if I put it in that way, social development organization over the years? How has women role developed in those being part of those units? So what I should say is that in the past, women were thought to be weak, right? It's like they didn't have a voice, they didn't have a say, and so persons believe that women should remain at home and care for the children, do house chores, and there was no place for them in the job market. But in recent times, the world has evolved, and so too women's role has evolved, and so women are taking up positions in different areas, different sectors, and so we find a lot of women joining the police force. We have women in leadership roles.
Yes.
We have women leading countries and leading police forces. Right? We have women even in the construction industry. And so women would have been, their roles would have been evolved over a period of time. Right? Women are conducting themselves in different projects. Women are educating themselves. They're going to school, university, getting a degree, putting themselves in a position that would for the betterment of the future and so forth. So in terms of the Special Victims Unit, we have a lot of women in the department, right? And we know that when it comes to gender-based violence, domestic issues, the most reported amount of matters is against females, against women, against girls. So we play a pivotal role
in that aspect as women, right? Because when somebody come to our office, let's say a woman, because I will say woman because we are dealing with International Women's Day.
Yes.
And we know that the reported matters are mostly against women. We are not saying that it doesn't happen to the men.
Yeah, we get beat up too, right?
in terms of the reported matters, it's most likely the women are victims.
Yes.
And so when a woman enters the office, they need a safe space. They need to feel comfortable.
So true.
More than likely, they may not want to speak to a male, especially if the male is an abuser. Not the male, but if the abuser is a male, right? They may not want to speak to a male officer. They might be more comfortable with a female. So I think that is one of the important aspects of women being involved in gender-based violence units, special victims units.
All right. I want to expand on it already. Because my next question is around it. Although you did mention part of what I was going to ask in my second question. My second was, what does that unique strength do women bring to victims in terms of the support and, especially in social development work and so forth? What did that special support that women bring?
Right. So women to women, right? Women are known to be nurturers, right? We are known to nurture. We are known to be good communicators, right? And so when a woman come in, we can speak to them. We can communicate better.
Okay.
We have a better listening ear. We know what women go through, and so we can connect with that woman or that child that enters a department and making such a report.
All right, great.
Right.
Anything you want to expand on that from Sir Francis?
Also, women are very calm, their disposition. So sometimes when dealing with these matters of domestic violence, you don't want somebody with aggression to deal with it. You need somebody that's calm, could de-escalate the situation, right? And women have these potentials. They have these characteristics that they calm situations and they think objectively. Okay.
Mr. Richards, you being part of the social development, how do you view women, especially being part of the social social development department? What's your take on women, the role they play, especially in terms of social development and gender-based violence also?
So I would say women to women in the service of caring, assisting victims, survivors, and so on. We're looking at breaking the cycle and the stereotypes. Yes, we have had several collaborations, several training, several support programs that encourages women to come forward, to speak up, to speak out, train women in various businesses so that they can be independent. Because most of the times you have seen over the years that in cases of violence against women and girls, women in particular, you will see that sometimes the women are dependent on persons for certain things. Let's take, for example, financial stability. We're not speaking down to them, but in the situations, financial stability, sometimes they don't have their own home. But when they are empowered, that they can be independent and they can do things on their own, we have the alleviation of some of those things. Now, we have more opportunities for women in terms of being empowered to get education and to seek higher forms of employment. So they're now moving upward socially. Now, historically, we know women to be in the caregiving role, more or less how her role would have been in the home, but we are now breaking those cultural stereotypes and norms where women are now able to go out and work and earn. And we have now a shift in the role system because we have some men now that are stay-at-home dad and they are doing a good job just the same, right, while the women go out and work. But before, primarily the women will remain in the home while the man go out and work. And we're saying nothing is wrong with exchanging the roles. So sometimes as a man, nothing is wrong with accepting the role of caregiving while the woman go out and work sometimes.
Not chopping on you, but has that changed the culture of men or made them look different? Or because that could be one of the reasons we see violence is projected towards women, because men may feel like, this woman is going on and making the money, I'm home. Could that cause that mental change in terms of their thoughts and thinking also?
It can lead to that. And I'll say this, sometimes if a man is not strong enough to maybe accept and appreciate the level and the state of the woman, sometimes he feels a bit inferior. Maybe she might be working for more money than him, and so on. He might take away from his ego, right? Historically, on the contrary, on the other side of things, historically, you look at when a woman is involved in the caregiving role, we see it as though she's doing nothing. So sometimes you hear a man saying, hey, you're home, whole day you're doing nothing, and I out working. But remember, her role and her work home is taking care of the home, homemaking. Think about if the woman was not present. You ain't have no food to eat when you come home, your clothes is washed, the children are well taken care of. That is a job, but because it doesn't bring in a financial reward, so to speak, in society's eyes, how we are cultured as men, sometimes you see it as she's home, she's doing nothing. Yeah, I remember just recently I decided to stay home and kind of assist for a little bit, and when I realized how difficult housework is, by the time day 3 I bail out, right? I'm not saying that all men are like that, but I'm just saying it could be a very difficult space, and sometimes it's good to give Jack his jacket and give due respect to them, the persons in that shoes and what they are doing. So I want to say that women have been going out, they have been breaking barriers through education, through sensitization, awareness initiatives and drives, the different ministries, government departments, police arms, the Community Relations Department, Special Victims Unit, the Child Protection Authority, the Ministry of Social Development and Gender Affairs, the other NGOs that we work with have been working collaboratively to empower women to break the cycle of being within that box of limitation. We are saying that you can now venture into other fields that were deemed historically as male-dominated fields. Like Officer Ton has mentioned, construction, women are now in air conditioning and refrigeration, and those are barriers that have been broken. Historically, those were male-dominated fields.
All right. Yeah. I want to ask this question before we take the break, though. What stereotype has women in policing in particular, had to overcome? In terms of, in the special victim unit and so forth, there's always those barriers that especially that women has to overcome. What are those barriers that you had to overcome, if there were any at all?
Right. So, women are known to be weak, or thought to be weak. Yeah. Right. And sometimes when you take up these roles, persons believe that you should not be there. Men should be the one employed, and so forth. Right. In terms of females in general, when it comes to domestic violence, some of the ills that we would have noticed is that persons would believe that men should be able to discipline their women, right? So if they believe that a woman did something wrong, they have the right to discipline them because they will see that's an incorrect behavior, and so they have the authority. And that is one of the stereotypes that we would have noticed, It is also said that women... They have to give their partner sex anytime they want it. Right? So even because you're in a relationship with a man, it is believed that the man basically owns your body and that you cannot say no to them. And this is a stereotype, and we say no to this. If a man forces himself on a woman, even if they are married, it becomes an offense. Okay. So we have, in recent time, it has been drafted into law where a husband can rape a wife. In the past, it was not so.
All right.
Right?
All right.
One of the other stereotypes we would have seen in relation to gender-based violence is sexual harassment is normal. So you may be in the workplace as a female. For, let's say, the Royal Grenada Police Force, we know it's predominantly male, right? So let's say, for example, a male officer might think it's okay to say certain things to us, or sexually harass, and they might think it's okay. That's one of the stereotypes.
It should just be accepted and
should
move on, as they would say.
Right. So that is one of the stereotypes, again, that we see taking place against women. Right. They also believe that women should only be mothers. Right? But as we have said earlier, women are taking up different roles in society.
A follow-up question to this is that, how do women, especially women in leadership, inspire younger generation? Of course, you would be in officers, you have gotten to the particular ranks that you are. Of course, is that a way of inspiring other young people to get themselves and come to that level also?
It definitely is. And we say education plays a big role in women achieving certain things. So that as police officers, as females, we go out into the institutions and we encourage young children.
Yeah.
So since young, they know that they can aspire to become somebody in the future. Right? We speak to ladies that comes into the department, right? They may be in certain situations and they believe that they cannot get out, right? We let them know that they have the willpower to do so. We are all human beings, and what one person can do, the other one can achieve it as well.
right? So we could encourage education, we encourage people lifting themselves in situations.
All right. So just notice you want to chime in on this.
Yes, I just wanted to piggyback on the previous question that you mentioned, looking at institutions, and I'm not speaking specifically to the RGPF, but I'm looking at institutions, ministries, departments. Historically, women's role more or less used to be at the lower level.
Front desk kind of thing.
Front desk, receptionist, secretary.
Yes.
Automatically, before, if you say that you're a woman, automatically, maybe receptionist. Yeah. Automatically, it meant receptionist, it meant secretary. But now you're seeing women rising to leadership roles, to accept managerial positions, and more going up at the helm. Right, and that in itself has been some level of success in terms of women's ability to move up, upward mobility, right, in terms of the workplace, organizations, and so on. So that in itself is a living testimony. We've also seen through my department and other departments within the RGPF and other places where women would go out and have open conversations with other women. What were the struggles growing up? How things have been. However, how they use their struggle as a motivation to get to where they are. And the challenges in getting to where they are. It was no zero to hero flight. It was no easy pity party moving around in the park. But with determination and education and perseverance, even in the midst of challenges, you can get to the top.
All right. Yeah. Folks, we drew for a break. Let's take it. And when we come back, we continue the conversation. Stay with us, folks. To the Point, Classic Radio, GBN TV. We will be right back.
Trip to Grenada from April 4th to the 6th, 2026. A decision you'll never regret. This isn't just any destination. It's where passion meets performance. Welcome to the 53rd Carifta Games, hosted at the iconic Kirani James Athletic Stadium in St. George's, under the theme, Passion Drives Performance. The best of the Caribbean's junior athletes will compete in electrifying track and field competition. Organize now and be part of an experience like no other, where talent, passion, and perseverance come alive on the land of 100,000 jab. Feel the passion, celebrate the performance, and create memories that will last a lifetime in pure Grenada, the land of warmth, spirit, and unstoppable energy. Welcome to the 53rd Carifta Games.
Whenever happy to see me, nobody is strangers, one big family.
Camahorn Boat, a powerful multimedia production, presented at Carifesta 15, written and directed by Chris DeRiggs. One big performance, only at the Grenada Trade Center on Saturday, 7th March at 7 p.m. The Camahorn Boat is the ship of state, Grenada, sailing to its destiny. The Camahorn Boat is a call for unity, an exciting story about patriotism, played out by Grenada's best acting talents, featuring Samuel Ogilvie, Robert White, Debbie Gilchrist, Bianchi Toussaint, Dillian Walters, and others. Come out and join us in celebrating our Grenadianness on Saturday, 7th March, 7 p.m. at the Grenada Trade Center. Admission almost free. Advance tickets are $50, $65 at the door. Your ticket outlets: Giddens Pharmacy Grand Anse, Art and Soul Bookstore, Spiceline Mall, Mitchell's Pharmacy Grand Anse, 3B's Shoe Store, downtown St. George, and other places. Bring out the entire family and enjoy a wonderful evening of Grenadian theater on 7th March at Grenada Trade Center, 7 p.m.
My name is Dr. Abigail Noel, and I am the head of department at the Accident and Emergency Department. One thing I love about Mount Sinai is their spirit of collaboration. They came in with ideas that have transformed our department in real time. The implementation of ID bands for every patient that comes through the emergency department. That has decreased patient errors. They have implemented defibrillators on every ward. Thus far, 128 staff members have been trained in defibrillator use. The huddle system is basically small meeting with all team members. It improves communication between staff members as well as with patients. This transformation means everything to the emergency department and by extension the health system of Grenada.
welcome back, listeners. Welcome back, viewers. Once again, it's To The Point, Classic Radio GBN TV, and we get back into our conversation. I guess let me say welcome back to you all, folks, once again. My next segment of questions that I want to get into. You know, there's always those signs that folks have to recognize, or recognizing signs. You know, signs of domestic violence and so forth. What are some of those subtle signs, would you say, of domestic violence that communities often have somewhat overlooked? I know who's going to gravitate to that question to get started. You know, there's always those signs that you know, especially when it comes to domestic violence. But somehow it's overlooked for various reasons. You're probably walking outside and you may hear GT and his wife quarreling, and you think that's their business. You understand? Or you may see the wife you always wearing a particular clothing, not knowing that she's been abused some way or the other. But some of those little subtle signs that we somewhat overlook for various reasons. What would you say, or what are some of those what we say overlooked in what way? What are some of those signs, subtle signs?
So before we go into the signs of domestic violence, let us know what is domestic violence.
I agree. Let's go.
Define it. So domestic violence is any controlling or abusive behavior that harms the health, well-being, or safety of a person or child.
All right.
And it includes or is not limited to the following: physical abuse, threats of physical abuse; sexual abuse, threats of sexual abuse; economical abuse, intimidation, harassment, stalking; damage to property; entry into the residence of the victim without their consent. Not invited, you're not invited, you just enter there.
All right.
Yes.
All right.
So domestic violence is not only physical abuse, not the signs of the bruising, the black eye, the scratch, the marks. It also is verbal abuse, psychological abuse, emotional abuse. Emotional abuse is ones that people don't look into, but it's a very serious abuse. It acts on your mental health, and sometimes when it's not dealt with, it also resides in somebody maybe taking their life or causing harm to themselves.
So why is it important, especially that you speak about the emotional and psychological part of it? Why is it important for folks to recognize that at early o'clock, as we would say in local terms? Why is it important for folks to recognize that?
If I were to respond here, it's important to recognize that because those are the things that people don't see, that you cannot see. You really need to be paying attention to see those things. And I'll say this. Sometimes you have what you call withdrawal, right? So in other words, people that you once used to be close with and so on, you're now withdrawn because sometimes perpetrators, accused persons, causes persons to be in such a place where they have you to get rid of all your friends, all your support networks, the people that you're really close with, that you can share, that you can depend on, that you can confide in. So in other words, it's only them that you have as somebody that you can turn to. So when it is that they decide to turn to abuse you, you really and truly have nowhere to turn. You have no one to go to. Additional to that, you have what you might notice, persons of that nature, victims, normally have a low self-esteem. And sometimes that comes from the shame that's associated with domestic violence. Sometimes even the verbal and the psychological abuse. Nobody's going to pick you up. Look, you have how much children, who want that? And some of the words that words can be really emotionally and psychologically damaging, even more than a physical lash sometimes.
That's true.
Because it have a way of remaining and causing a longer span of damage to persons as opposed to a physical blow. Also, even in a subliminal way, sometimes you see certain persons wear certain styles, whether a hairstyle or might be arrayed in such a dress code, put on a certain dress code. Take for example, see somebody in a shades, and you might think, well, some outside is hot, and they're wearing a shades, but sometimes the shades might be to hide injuries to eyes due to domestic violence. A hairstyle might be, the hair in front of the eyes, in front of the face, to hide some form of violence that it would have been exposed to. Even sometimes you might notice persons are more or less frightened when others are around. That's another sign, but sometimes you may not even notice it. You realize the person, when that particular person is around, the person moving nervous, they're shaking, almost as if the person wants to pass out, because that particular individual is around. Sometimes the person might be stopped. Yeah. And we don't know. But sometimes you need to pay attention. We always hear of the screams, and the fighting, you might see the chopping and whatever. But they are those silent killers. That persons that you really need to pay attention to. As signs of persons being violated, abused, mistreated, and I'm speaking about women and girls here.
All right. Anything you want to expand on that in any way?
Yes. If I should go back to the emotional abuse, right?
Yeah.
Because as we know, persons may think that the only abuse there is physical. So we're looking for injuries and so forth. But emotional abuse can take a toll on persons. And emotional abuse is basically where you degrade the other partner. You repeatedly use insults and threats to them. So persons may be in a situation where they're constantly told they would amount to nothing, or these kind of words, right? Nobody would want you.
Simply telling someone, I'm going to take your life constantly. Right. It may not have been doing, but you get into that stage knowing that anger that the individual gets to, probably one of these days it may happen.
And that person may not even know that they are being abused.
Yeah.
Right? Some of the signs, again, that one may look for when it comes to the physical abuse or emotional abuse, again, it can be, let's say, the person is normally seems like they're isolating themselves. So somebody who have been outgoing, right? That person like to party, they like to dress up, like to go out. All of a sudden, they are no longer going out. It could mean that person movements have been restricted, right? That person is being abused and they can no longer go out.
All right.
Right?
Let's talk a wee bit about the support system that are currently available for victims, especially domestic violence here in Grenada. Let's talk about some of the support system.
Right. So we have the Ministry of Social Development. That's where Mr. Richardson is. We have the Legal Aid and Counseling Clinic. We have the Child Protection Authority. Right. That's some of the agencies that we work together with in relation to victims.
Okay, let's also how effective are these particular agencies that you speak about, especially in terms of shelter, hotline, and all these things, counseling service, and in providing that immediate relief sometimes for victims.
So what we have is what you call joint intervention.
Yeah,
that's very important. When things like that of that nature happen, you don't respond as a single agency, but you respond jointly. So take, for example, you have a situation of domestic violence, somebody report, the police and the ministry most of the times are going to respond jointly, right? And when those things happen, of course, you have the safe house. I will not mention where it is, right? But we have the battered home for women, and it's for reasons, safety reasons, and so on, right? We have persons that sometimes may not meet the criteria or may be unable to go to that center, right? Government have this program where they can provide at least 3 months assistance, right, with rent assistance for persons, right, until maybe they can find a way. They might have persons that might have lands, right? You might have lands and you may not have the ability to build, so we can go through housing, right, collaboratively, and you can get material assistance, those kind of things, even counseling support. We liaise with Child Protection Authority, especially when there are children involved, right? And you have that kind of interagency, interministerial collaborations, right? Even with the police, that can bring some kind of relief to persons, and these are just some of the assistance that can be given. We have a hotline at the ministry that you can call, where you can get somebody available 24/7 if you have a situation of gender-based violence nature, and the number there is 417-6167. Of course, from the police end, if you're in a situation, you can dial 911. It's a free call, and you can be asked to be transferred to the nearest police station where you live, where you can make a report, and the report can be channeled accordingly.
Okay. Anything you all want to add in reference to that, to the officers?
Well, I'd like to add that sometimes we get a lot of reports that don't really fall under the police restrictions.
Okay.
But we do make referrals to the Ministry of Social Development, CPA, to see what assistance could be rendered.
Okay. Tell me also, for the police part of it, the role, speak a wee bit on the role of the police. How do the police balance that immediate victim protection through investigations, through the the investigations?
Right. So as soon as we get a report of such a nature, we respond immediately. Right. A call can be made to any of the police stations within the Tri-Island state.
Yeah.
And so the police would, and they have an obligation to respond to each and every call of a domestic abuse nature.
Okay.
Right. When the police get to that area, they would speak to the individual, the victim. If the perpetrator is around, the perpetrator has to be removed. Right. The victim would be told her rights or his rights. The victim would be told that they can get a protection order. Right? They would be told that they can file a criminal complaint if a criminal offense has been committed. And if I should speak a little on the protection order.
That's way over the next line of question was going, but since you preempted, I'll let you go ahead.
Right. So the protection order is an order that is granted by the magistrate in a court.
Yeah.
Right. The police does not grant orders, but the police would assist you in filling out that form. Right. So you can get any of those forms at any police station.
All right.
Right. The police would assist you, and they're obligated to assist you to fill out that form. From there, you will need to go to the registry. So let's say you're in St. George's area, you will go to the registry and get a stamp. The stamp cost, I believe, is $1.50. Right? But if you're in the Grenville area, you would get that in one area at the court.
Okay.
Right? So from the registry for St. George's, you would then head up to the court, where you would speak to the magistrate. And we advise that if you come in to the police station to get that form filled out, try to come as early as possible. Let's say try to reach there let's say it could be around 8 o'clock, so that you can be able to catch the magistrate before she actually go and sit on the bench.
Get that whole process.
Right, because when she goes on the bench, she will be dealing with her matters. So try to get to the station, you go to the registry and then get to the court, let's say after 8, so that you can be able to reach her before she actually go and deal with her matters, right? You would have a chance to speak with her, let her know your case, and then she would issue that order. Once that order is issued to you, you will in turn bring back to the police a copy of that order. So you have an option whether or not you would like the bailiff at the court or the police to serve that individual.
Okay.
Right? Whether or not you want the bailiff to do it, you still have to bring back a copy to the police, and the police would know that the order was granted and what are the conditions of the order, just in case the perpetrator would have breached that order. Right? If the police have to serve that order, they will do that as soon as possible.
Okay.
Right? They would serve that order and they would explain that order to the perpetrator, that is the abuser. And that order would specify as to what the perpetrator cannot do or shouldn't do towards the victim. And there would be a date on the order that the perpetrator along with the victim has to return to court. Because what they get at first is an interim order for a short span of time. It can be a month or 2 weeks or so. So that perpetrator now would be served and he is obligated to go to court on that particular day. So he has a voice on that day to say whether or not an order should be granted against him and give his side of the story if there is a side to give. But whether or not he shows up, the proceeding will take place and a final order can be given in his absence. Again, that form is returned to the police and we serve it on him. So, but once you breaches any of the order, it could be the interim, it could be the final order. Once you breaches it, it becomes a criminal offense. And once that is done, the victim makes a report to the police, give a statement, and as soon as practicable possible, the police picks up that individual and charge that individual for the offense.
Okay. My next question, training is important, especially dealing with handling, for special victims units. I mean, individual. I keep saying units, special victim individuals, or so. It's a sensitive case to deal in. For the police point of view, how effective is the training? How important is training in terms of dealing with matters of that nature? Especially when it comes to, when the abuse of that nature comes to gender-based violence in particular, and dealing with the sensitivity in terms of how the training and dealing with that in particular.
Well, training is always important in every sector.
Yeah.
And we often get training from different ministries. So even from social development, we will get training collaboratively. So they would have sessions where the police and different agencies come together and speak on certain topics.
Okay.
Right? We will get training from outside. So they have regional training, we have training, international training as well. Even within the police force, we have training, internal training, right? And so it helps us in dealing with those persons. So we realize what issues are there, and so we can better serve the community, better serve these victims.
All right.
Just to chime in a little bit, going into the aspect of training, right? What the training look like is important to understand. When you're dealing with issues of a sensitive nature, in particular matters of a gender-based violence nature, one must be empathetic. So the person doing the interview must be empathetic. You must be able to listen with understanding, not just listening that, oh, I hear you. No. You must listen with understanding. One must be very constrained not to speak while the person is speaking. Remember, it's their story. It's not your story. You was not there. They are the person that is retelling the story. And so we must listen with understanding. And if you have a question, you allow them to finish and you ask for clarity purposes. When you say that, do you mean this? Like that. Additionally, we must be careful of non-verbal gestures because it can discredit or it can limit the extent to which somebody share or the quality of information they share. Right? Take for example, so I'm speaking with you and you're, I hear you. I just taking that call, I hear you. Can't do that, right? Or you might, like, this gesture, like, seriously? You did that? No, it's going to hinder persons from wanting to share. Yeah, it's going to make them feel as though you're judgmental of them, right? Even if we have to agree to disagree, but I am agreeing to listen to what you're saying. I am agreeing to putting myself in your situation. Even if sometimes the decision that you take, I may not necessarily agree with it, but I must respect your story and I must listen with understanding. Confidentiality as well plays a big role. Building rapport. All those are some of the training and some of the skills to be done or to be used when interviewing persons of a gender-based violence nature. Even what we call emotional intelligence. You know, sometimes there are things person's body is saying, but verbally they are not saying it. There are things that you can pick up. It's not that you're judging, but based on information, based on description, based on the mood of the conversation, there are some things that you can pick up. And so it's going to assist you with your line of questioning when you have to do so. Yeah.
Okay. All right. We drew for a break. Let's take it. When we come back, we continue the conversation. Stay with us, folks. It's To The Point. Classic Radio Dreaming TV. We will be right back after the break.
At Sonova, we create human-centered technology that helps organizations work smarter and more efficiently. From software development to digital transformation, our mission is simple: to deliver digital tools that streamline operations and prepare your business for the future. At the core of that mission is Saturn, our flagship platform built for scale, automation, and AI-ready operations. Saturn unifies your digital processes in one place, making it easier to manage applications, approvals, clients, and internal workflows. It becomes the digital backbone that supports growth and smarter decision-making across your organization. If you're ready to modernize how you work, our sales team is ready to help. Call 1473-421-7724 or visit our website at saturn.gd and discover how Saturn can transform your operations for long-term success.
An unforgettable experience to a live FIFA World Cup game with Coca-Cola. Here's how you can enter. Uncap a 591 ml Coke Original Taste or Coke Zero Sugar with
On Saturday, March 14, it's going down at the Roy St. John's playing field in Tantine with Grenada Octofest. More than cars, go head to head with Venti, Antics, and Classics, bikes, Jeeps, Land Rovers, and custom-built machines, all battling for $50,000 in cash and prizes. It's more than a car special. It's a family day. Look out for go-kart racing and bouncy castles. And we climax with Sakina and the Alpha One Band. Plus a special surprise. It's Grenada Auto Fest. Saturday, March 14. It's a vibe you can't miss. Lock the date. Special thanks to our partners, Wagity Rental, True Blueberry Resorts, On The Spot Hardware, and all our category prize sponsors.
There can only be one champion. Thursday, March 12th, 2026, the Karani James Athletic Stadium will become a battleground. 13 schools, one epic showdown. It's the Huggins Private Primary School Championship. Starting time 1 p.m. Students in uniform, $5. Children, $10. Adults, $20. Feel the tension. Hear the roar. Witness greatness as young athletes push their limits. It's the Huggins Private Primary Schools Track and Field Championship. Miss it and blame yourself.
The Inland Revenue Division and the Accountant General Division are coming to a community near you. That's right, our satellite offices are on the move, bringing services closer to home. No long travel, no hassle. Just quick, convenient service right in your community. We'll be on location to help you with all your tax and vendor registration matters. Ask about tax refunds, file objections, check property tax balances, pay your taxes on the spot, and yes, you can even register for GTAX and sign up for the new vendors portal. Catch us at these locations. In St. George, at the Bruce Street Mall on Friday, February 27th and March 27th. At our Young Street office on March 7th and March 14th. In St. John on Friday, February 27th at St. Francis Street. We'll be at the Grenville Car Park in St. Andrew and at the Carriacou District Revenue Office on Friday, March 13th. And on Friday, March 20th, we'll be at the District Revenue Offices in St. Patrick and St. Mark. All locations open from 8:30 a.m. to 5 p.m. Longer hours, more convenience, better service for you. The Inland Revenue Division and the Accountant General Division's Satellite Office. Don't miss this opportunity.
Welcome back, listeners. Welcome back, viewers, once again. To the point here on Classic Radio. Of course, I guess I want to say welcome back in this segment. We just have a few more minutes left on the program. This goes out to the Special Victim Units officers with me this morning. Tell us about some of the things that the Special Victims Units really do, or the responsibilities of the Special Victims Unit.
So the Special Victims Unit was established jointly by the RGPF, the Royal Grenada Police Force, and the Ministry of Social Development. Right? Its main focus is to enhance the holistic services provided to victims of domestic violence. So we deal with domestic violence, sexual abuse, and all forms of child abuse. The unit is a subunit of the Criminal Investigations Department, and we have three-dimensional focus or goals. That's to coordinate, monitor, and provide adequate and effective timely investigations as it relates to all matters surrounding victims, special victims. We also collaborate with other stakeholders like the Ministry, Child Protection Authority to make appropriate and timely intervention and provide support to victims. We also collaborate and also initiate relevant community programs, like you might see us in the schools doing lectures, you might see us in the communities doing walks with other stakeholders, just engaging people, educating and sensitizing them as it relates to domestic violence and other forms of abuse in Grenada, Carriacou, and Petit-Martinique. We also have contact numbers that you could reach us at. So our hotline number, it's a hotline number, meaning it's similar to that of a 911 call. You don't have to have credit to call that number. You just dial 400. That's our hotline number. Okay. We have a telephone number. It's an easy number to remember, 440-4739. So if you remember the 473, just remember the 9 after.
All right. right.
We also have a cell phone number. It's 406-7897. I repeat, 406-7897. We also have an email address. You could send an email to us, specialvictims400@outlook.com. So these are the contact numbers you could reach us at the Special Victims Unit.
All right. Let me ask this also. How can education and awareness campaigns, especially like what we're doing here right now, shift that culture and attitudes towards, gender inequality? I know we want to grab that.
What I would say here is that, sometimes a lot of things become normal, or we normalize certain behaviors. And you see, if you would have been exposed to something from childhood as being normal, you grow with it as being normal, it's difficult to change. It's easy to learn than to unlearn. The process of unlearning sometimes takes a while. And so education plays a critical role in helping persons to understand what their rules are, how society is supposed to function, what their rights are, what the fundamental human rights are, even as a person. Now, even as we speak here, there are a lot of persons that don't even know the services that are offered by the Special Victims Unit. There are a lot of persons that don't know some of the services that are offered by the Ministry of Social Development and Gender Affairs. And likewise, other key stakeholders like legal aid, child protection, just to name a few, right? So it's important to go out there and have those kind of engagement with persons to help them to understand the services that are available. And with that, they are better able, or they are better poised to respond to the services. In other words, based on the situation or the need that they might have, they would know which one of the stakeholder groups offers that service that they need in that particular situation. And in that way, you would see more reporting. In that way, you would see persons coming forward. In that way, you would see accountability, because somebody may not necessarily be a victim of abuse, but they might know someone that might be in a similar situation that they can tell, you can call that, or they can even call on their behalf. Say something. Take for example, let's say a child is being abused, right? You don't have to say, you don't have to know all the details. You can give as much as you know. You can call anonymously and say, hey, I see that is happening. Let's check this out. Yes? Look, you don't have to say that I am John Paul from so. I am just calling as a concerned citizen. This is what's happening. This is where it is. This is the name of the person. Yeah? And a report and an investigation can be launched to look into those things. So information sharing, knowledge sharing, education and community initiatives are very important. In fact, critically important to the work that we are doing.
All right. Now, what you want?
Yes.
Go ahead.
I wanted to add that education and awareness is definitely important. Like programs like these, because there are persons who do not know. They just simply do not know. So if you're not aware as to what is domestic violence, you would not know that you may be in that kind of situation, right? So if you don't know, then you don't know who to reach out to, because you do not know that we exist. You do not know that the ministry exists, so you do not know that you can reach out to these persons, right? Yeah. Miss Francis just gave a list of numbers. If you don't know, right? So now you know. So if that you are in a relationship like that, a situation, you can reach out to us, right? So awareness is very much important.
Some people go around with the norm that, still have it in their mindset, well, he hates me because he loves me. Some women go with that particular mindset that they think, well, I shouldn't complain about that because, or maybe I did something wrong and the reason why I was for that.
Hence the conversation about normalization of abuse. So it becomes normal. Yeah. It becomes a part of life. We shouldn't happen. Yeah, and sometimes that person that's saying he hits me because he loves me, they are mirroring the behavior that they saw previously. They might have been in a home where that happened, and that behavior might have been normal to them. It has been normalized, and so they grow with that concept that is okay. Yeah.
So tell me also, what role should men play in ending gender-based violence?
As men, I would say that sometimes things can be difficult. Things can be challenging. Yeah. You might face a situation where you face a rejection in a relationship. Yes? How do you handle rejection? Somebody might say to you, no. Yeah? You might invest and you feel as though, the whole world is ending, is crashing because that person now decides that they no longer want to be in a relationship with you. We can seek help.
Yeah.
There's help available. There's no reason why, justifiably so, we should end somebody's life because we think that, we would have invested a lot in a relationship. I'm not saying that it's not going to hurt, but I'm saying that you can seek assistance, you can seek help that can assist you in moving forward. As men, let's rally together. We have sisters, we have daughters, we have our mothers, we have our aunties, we have our grandparents. We have a lot of females that are involved in our lives. Are we going to continue to allow them to go through a cycle of violence? How many more women are we going to allow to die through acts of violence? How many more women are we going to allow to live an entire life cycle, an entire lifetime being bounded and compounded by violence? They're not able to express themselves. They're not able to live freely. They are living in fear. Those things hurt. And hurt people hurt others. And what are we reflecting? What are we saying to the younger people that are upcoming, that are looking to us to mirror behaviors, to model behaviors? As men, I want to encourage us to be co-champions against violence against women and girls. Let's stand together and champion the cause against violence against women and girls. Because the truth is, we may not be directly affected today, but in one way or the other, it's going to come home at some point, God forbid, right? When tragic things happen, we all feel the pain. Even if we may not necessarily be related to the persons, even person that might have been violated in the past, they remember what has happened, and it even adds more pain, And so we need to be careful of this. And even if you might be an abuser, I want to say that, and I want to put that on record. Even if you might be an abuser, and you are willing to change, all hope is not lost. Accept that is who you are. Accept this is what is happening with you, and make that bold step. Sometimes we have to own up. We have to own up and say, hey, this is who I am. This is what's happening to me, and I am making that decision. It might be unpopular. It might be rare. But I am making this decision to come forward, to get help, to move past that situation where I can move on in a positive way.
All right.
Yeah.
All right.
So it's important for men to educate themselves as well, and be aware of what is happening around you. You may be on the block with one of your friends, and one of your friends may recite or say something indicating that he abuses his girlfriend, for instance. You can talk to him. Right? So again, break that cycle. There are many stereotypes out there that believe that men have the right to hit us when they believe that we do something wrong. Right? We encouraging men to break that cycle. Right? As special victims officers, we visit the schools and we speak to the young boys, right? From a tender age, letting them know what is right and what is wrong. Hitting, is not right. Even parents, we encourage parents to speak to the boys. Not because they are young, you think that it's okay to allow them to do certain things. Because you may be in a home with a boy child, as female as well, a girl child, and that child constantly hits someone, and you might just laugh it off because you say, the child is young, they go grow it out. That's a normal statement we make. But as they normally say, we have to bend the tree while it's young. So we speak to these kids because they have understanding. Speak to them and get them to change, so that they would not grow up thinking it's okay to hit. Because if they start young, it's more than likely that they may grow up and turn into violent individuals and abusing their partners.
Okay, great. Of course, for listeners and viewers, I will give you an opportunity. If you do have a question or two you would like to contribute to our program this morning, feel free to do so in the next segment. But we know we have International Women's Day coming up. Of course, the event is coming up. Share some information about that, what will be taking place before we gravitate to the calls.
So, as part of International Women's Day, we have a solidarity march that's taking place, in fact, tomorrow at St. Andrews. In St. Andrews, we're going to be starting at Progress Park from 4 p.m. and we're going to be moving all the way down to the Grenville Car Park. Yes? Now, we are celebrating, and we are doing that. Actually, we are doing the solidarity march under the theme, Stand Together, Speak Out, Act Now. Stand together, speak out, act now. Now, the colors for the event, we're looking at purple, orange, your white, and your blue. So let's rock our colors. Let's come out there and let's support. Make it a family event. It's not a woman thing. It's everybody's thing. Man, woman, stakeholders, We have the commitment of government on this, our Minister of Social Development. And so let's make this thing a reality tomorrow, God's willing, as we champion the cause. There will be advocacy groups going on there. There will be social media influencers speaking to persons on the ground there. Important to note, from 2 p.m., we'll be having what you call a clothesline activity. And the clothesline activity is done by the Ministry of Social Development, where we open it to the public, where persons can write, draw on T-shirts and express themselves in terms of empowering messages against gender-based violence. We want persons to come out even with their placards and so on. Yeah? Make your voice known and show your support against gender-based violence, violence against women and girls. We also going to be having some stakeholders there. We have the Legal Aid and Counseling Clinic, we have the Special Victims Unit, we have the Child Protection Authority, we have the Counseling Unit of the Ministry of Social Development and Gender Affairs, right? You might have a question, there might be things that you might want to ask about, and you may not necessarily have had the time or the opportunity to do so, but we are going to be on the ground so you can interact with us, and we want you to come out in your numbers. Let's support the cause. It's important. It's a vexing issue. I mean, we cannot allow the scourge of gender-based violence to continue like this, and it's a collaborative approach. It's an all-inclusive something. In other words, all hands need to be on deck. It's not a government thing. It's not a police thing. It's not a social development thing. The truth is, we cannot do it alone.
All right.
We need everybody to come together to stand and say, enough is enough. And we are championing the cause against this.
All right, we do have a caller online. Let's take our first caller. Caller live, good morning, welcome.
Yeah, morning, GT, and morning to your esteemed guests.
Good morning.
Yeah, guests in the plural. Yes, I mean, the conversation is encouraging, but I would say one of the things that we must do in this space is become radically honest. And by this I mean we need to face things as it is. In the first instance, things are distorted, and when we say traditionally women was in the home and that kind of thing, history doesn't bear that. The women was in the plantation, in the plantation under slavery with the children. And even at the time of, in our situation in Grenada, when the arrival of Eric Gary, which saw a change in the situation of people, the women was there too. So we need to really change the narrative that there was a certain privileged group of people that was always probably in the home, not the mass of the women. That's one. Also, we need to really tackle the issue of the patriarchy. The patriarchy is a main source which is tied up with capitalism and other anti-human, systems. We need to tackle those systems, and I think we are afraid to deal with it because then it has religious implications and so on. When you look at how our minds are structured to see the male at the top, who is at the top? God, Jesus, the Holy Spirit. That's from a Christianity point of view. In Islam, Allah. Although it's slightly different in Hinduism, you have Krishna. I mean, the woman is subservient of the man. What we need to do is to create egalitarian societies where there's no hierarchy. Each person has agency and they can contribute rather than be consumers, as we have been teaching our people to be consumers. We need to teach people to be contributors, to be builders of society for the future, and we have been dealing the hurts from the past. We need to heal from the trauma that we are all being subjected to and still being subjected to, but which we live in denial of. Thank you very much.
Thank you, caller. Thank you for your contribution. Also appreciate it a whole lot. Anything you want to say that the caller said that you may want to respond to in any way at all?
The issue of the first one, speaking about the woman's role in the house, in the home, what we're looking at as well, not necessarily a physical home or house, but we're looking at domestic chores. Yeah. So the internal role, we're looking at the nurturing role, we're looking at the domesticated chores. Yeah, that kind of thing. That's what we're speaking about in that context. I agree with him in terms of the patriarchy. We're getting somewhere. We're breaking some grounds, if I should use that word, but there's still quite a bit to do in terms of equality amongst males and females, but we are getting somewhere. we're getting somewhere.
All right.
That much I'll say on that.
All right. Well, it seems that we may have exhausted our calls, our segment this morning. A lot of the calls are a bit slow. I think everyone may have understand what we were talking about this morning. Well, I would like to say that, today's discussion, reminds us that women are not just participants. You understand, they are our leaders, protectors, they are change makers. I would say that also. And we can build a society where dignity, equality, and safety is non-negotiable at all. That's how I want to put that. Anything in closing from you in this one before we take a wrap?
Right, well, I just want to encourage persons to come forward. Right? You may be a victim. You would have heard today that you don't have to be physical. So you could have learned that it can be emotional, and if you're being abused and you wish to get help, then you reach out to us, right? We want persons in communities reach out to us as well. So you might suspect that someone is being abused. It can be a child as well. It could be in a sexual nature. Reach out to us. As Mr. Richardson said, you don't have to say who you are when you call. You can call anonymously. Just give us the information, and we assure you that we will work on it. We are aware that there are challenges in relation to reporting some of those matters, because persons believe it's not their business, as well as the victims may feel a form of guilt or shame, or because of the portfolio you hold in society, you may be feeling ashamed or embarrassed to come forward. But we encourage you to come forward. At the unit, we are a professional set of persons, right? We are female dominated in the department. We have one male attached to the department. The rest of our officers are females. Come in, we are professionals, we are confidential, and we will give you the help that you need. So all you have to do is take that bold step and come forward.
Okay. Anything you want to say?
I'd like to urge the viewers and the general public that if you know it, you suspect it, you see it, you hear it, please report it. As I said, I outlined the contact numbers for the Special Victims Unit, and the simplest one is 400. It's a very easy number to remember. When we go out through the schools, we have a little slogan where we sing with the children. If you want to be a hero, call 400. It's easy to remember. So it's very easy to remember.
All right. Sir Richardson, anything in closing?
Well, I just want to encourage our viewers, persons that might be in domestic situations, do not remain in your condition and die a physical death, an emotional death, a psychological debt, a financial debt. Do not remain in your condition. There is hope. There are services available to assist you from moving from point A in the negative to point B in the future for the positive. We want to encourage you to make use of the services. Come forward. Even persons that might be bent on abusing persons, we want to appeal to you to desist from that practice. And if you are willing to change, there are also services available to assist you in moving forward. So in other words, we are presenting to you a balanced approach. We are not coming down on one particular set of persons, but we are presenting to you that there is help available for both parties. Okay. The abusers and even the victims. The abusers, once you are willing to change. If you are not willing to change, we have no cause, we have no choice but to let the law take its course on those matters. All
right. Well, my guest, I want to thank you once again for coming and sharing the information this morning. And I certainly know there are listeners and viewers out there who would certainly be calling those numbers. Because, a lot of folks go through stuff and hold it in. A lot of folks know about situations that are taking place and don't say anything. Or will we see upscaling that in terms of the reporting and stuff like that? Reporting and coming out and speak about gender violence. And I certainly hope lots of folks come out tomorrow. And of course be part of the event. Thank you, folks, once again, and best wishes for the
Thank you.
Thank you for having us.
Listeners. Thank you, GBN.
Hey, folks, that's what we're going to take a wrap for today's edition of To The Point. Join me again tomorrow for another. Have a good one, folks. That's what we say goodbye.